pretty much while me and Chloe were going through that big media storm of our story just going on all the newspapers and being on This Morning over in the UK and stuff like that, like my granddad then passed away, and it was like the wrong time. But like there's never a right time to come out.
No.
Like it was either come out or pretty much get out, because I was so unhappy.
Hello and welcome back to The Mothership, the show that brings the issues that matter most to Irish families to the table. On this week's show, we're discussing how to help your child come out, whether that's in terms of their sexuality or their gender identity. How do we as parents help them navigate that process and be the best allies that we can be? Joining us this week is activist and TV personality Paddy Smyth.
Thanks, Laura.
And next to him, you might know him as Pixiewooo, that's Michael Ryan, makeup artist and drag performer extraordinaire. And to my left, the ever glamorous content creator Jamie AKA.
Hello.
Guys, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for
What a
having
panel.
me.
It's great to have you. So, look, coming out, people think of it as this one conversation with a parent, but it's actually a lot more than that. I mean, you have your extended family, your workplace, your friends, and sometimes it's kind of letting the whole world who your true self is. So it's a bit of a process, really, isn't it? So I want to find out how it was for you guys. So Paddy, let's start with you. Coming out, tell us all about it.
Oh God. Yeah, it was very tough. I mean, obviously being disabled and gay, there was two kind of hurdles I was trying to come over and come to terms with in my own life. So in normal, typical shy fashion, I came out at a Christmas Eve party to my parents.
Okay.
I came home half cut. With my crutch in the air, and at this point I had like purple crutches, one Michael Jackson sticker on one and a Gary Barlow sticker on the other, and I was like, I'm gay. And
How old are you?
17.
Okay.
Don't drink till you're 18, guys. But 17. So, and at the time when I walked in and said that, and I was like, Happy New Year, and everyone, it was like silent, like you could like just like a tumbleweed went through the whole house.
Was there a good few of your family there?
Yeah, it was like a
You just were
party.
like, I'm ripping the band-aid off, I'm telling them all.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what the next day I was told, the reason why it was so quiet, but just before I came in, they were talking about if I was gay.
Right.
And my dad was like, oh no, well he went on a date with this girl with a crutch, so like they could be together. And it wasn't the case.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did they take it after your initial announcement? How was it?
It was tough. I mean, my dad was traditional. He's passed away now.
Okay.
Obviously, we came to a good understanding of each other, but it took us a long time to get there. I mean, he was in his 50s when he had me, and he was quite a traditional person. So I came along, like something he didn't understand at all, and just found it very hard to deal with. So it was like he knew that I knew that he knew, but we just didn't talk about it for like a year.
Right.
And then one day he just came in and I was doing my fake tan, and he was like, "Here, your sister's on on the phone there. Stop doing your fake tan." And I think that was his kind of way of letting me know that he's kind of okay with it. And then he voted yes for gay marriage. So that was a big thing, because like from our beginning of the journey to then say yes to gay marriage meant like, we've come to a happy medium, we've come to an understanding. And I think it was just a very tough time for both of us.
Yeah.
It was just something he didn't understand.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And had you been kind of dreading doing it? Like, did it take you a while? Okay.
Yeah, dreading doing it. And kind of like ashamed, like I let him down,
Really?
Because my mum passed away as well, so like it was very me and my dad together. And I have a stepmom who's lovely and great, but there's something about, like, for him, I felt like I let him down, and I felt like this is something else I'm gonna have to give to him, because I felt like being disabled as well. I don't know. I just felt
Which
like
of course
I was
is far
broken.
from the case, but
Yeah, I felt like I was
this is
broken almost.
Yeah.
And that was really hard to come to terms with, especially when you're in an intersectionality of like being gay and disabled in this world. Like you can't even I found it really hard to find my place in the gay world as well.
But you're such an inspiration for anyone who is coming at it from a couple of angles, because look at you now. Like you're, you know what I mean? Like you're just so confident.
I don't know if you know I'm gay, guys.
How would we know?
Yeah.
But you're an activist. You're flying the flag. You're winning TV shows left, right, and centre. Like you're absolutely flying it now. So
Thank
I think
you so much.
it's really inspiring for anyone who might be listening to this who thinks like, oh God, this is just so daunting. Like, what am I going to do?
Well, for me, it's like if you see it, you can be it.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, people who are out there, minority groups, and do push the boundaries and like challenge the narrative, you know, that for those little kids sitting at home thinking that they won't be able to come out, or thinking that because they have a disability or because they don't know who they are, that they won't be able to do what they want to do. If they can see people like us on the screen, then they can start to believe that it's possible.
Absolutely, which is why representation is so important. And of course, it's only become more prevalent now. Seeing gay people on TV, there used to be like a token gay character in shows, and there was gay jokes and stuff. When you look back even at Friends, it wasn't that long ago, it was just so naff. So yeah, I mean, you'd like to think nowadays it's probably a little bit easier for people, but there's a lot to contend with.
I think we do have it, like the information's out there and we definitely are talking about it more. Whether it's easier, it's not, maybe that's not the case. I think everyone has their own journey coming to their own terms with their sexuality, and I think that I hate that we put so much emphasis on sexuality, and it shouldn't just be about fluidity and if you like the person and not putting me in a box. And I think when you're a parent to someone who's maybe like questioning their identity or sexuality, or whether that, like, don't try put them in a box, let them explore. Don't try say you have to be gay, you have to be straight, you have to be trans, you have to be this. I hate all those like titles that we give people and we box them off. Like, just let them explore and let them be themselves and let them figure out for themselves and be the support system they need to be, that you need to be for them in that time. Do you know what I mean?
Michael, did you have a support system when you came out? How did it all go for you?
I did. I think coming out is such a journey. It can take years to come out. And I think the first person you have to come out to is always yourself, which is sometimes the hardest part, to come out to yourself before you come out to anyone else. So I think I first realised I was gay when I was very young. Like, I think I was like, had just made my communion. Like, I was that young when I was like, okay, there's something up here and there's
body
something.
Of Christ.
Yeah. And what a body it was. So I had years, and so like if you think I was like maybe like 7 the first time I like realised, okay, something is up here, and I didn't.
And how did you feel about it when you were a child? Do you remember?
I actually I was like, okay, this is it. I was like, I'm gay. I was like, didn't even know any other gay people. Didn't really know what being gay was. I was like, I like boys. I have to hide this until I'm out of here. I kind of knew, and that was like a really young age, that I was like, you have to keep this a secret until you're old enough to get out of here. So then there's like
that's really hard.
There's all that time in between. That was like 7, and I didn't come out until I was 19. So that's a lot of time where you're like every single day you're living with this secret over your shoulder all the time. And like I was obviously like a very gay kid. Like I was like everyone else. Like I was being called gay before I knew I was gay. So that's kind of like how I came to it. So if you're getting bullied in school and you're being called gay and you can't then come home and tell your parents you're being bullied because you're being bullied for the secret that you're hiding from them.
Oh God, okay.
Like years of like, that building up on top of you, and that's the point where you're like, okay, I have to come out now. So then you have to start making the small changes. So I told friends first, and then I started telling like, family members who weren't in the immediate family, and like pretty much everyone knew before my parents knew. Like I was like...
You think they had no idea?
I mean, I thought I had dropped flags. Like I was like, running around with flags at this point. I was like a walking red flag for he's a gay, look. When I think I told my parents I wanted to be a makeup artist before I told them I was gay, and they just didn't put 2 and 2 together.
Right, okay.
So yeah, I told my family, I told my sister first because I didn't want to tell my parents face to face because I just couldn't. I mean, there was so many times, like over like maybe like a 3-year period where I was like, okay, this is the day I'm going to tell them. And I would get to the point and I'd be like, no, can't do it.
Okay.
I just can't see their facial reaction, because like that's the kind of thing that can be really damaging. Like years later, if you tell them and they have like an instant reaction, that can stay with you for years afterwards. So
and did you think that they were going to be upset by this news?
Because you kind of convince yourself they are, even though they were completely fine in the end. But like you run over every possibility in your head, and it's you always go straight to the worst. You always go to like, oh my God, I'm going to be abandoned, I'm going to be kicked out, it's going to be terrible. Because you read horror stories all the time of people who were like kicked out of their houses. So I told my sister first, and then I told her to tell them, so they had time to kind of sit with the whole situation before they then contacted me and were like, okay, we know. Let's go, let's talk about this.
Okay, so she told them?
Yes, she told them. So I had moved out of home, but I had like gone to college in Dublin before I told. So I had time to kind of like.
And did you know that they knew before they contacted you? Like, were you waiting on a phone call, or how did it all go down?
Yeah, I was kind of, from the moment I told her, I was like, okay, it's going to happen any day now. I was like, it's going to come, and I told her not to tell me because I didn't want to freak out like internally beforehand. So then I was like at a party with my friends, and we were kind of pre-drinking before we went to the George, our big gay night out that we had like 5 nights a week at that point, because when you come out first, you become the biggest gay of, like, you just the gayest gay for a full year. So I was like drinking with my friends, and I got a phone call from my dad, and he's like, can you talk? And I was like, oh my God, like turn the music down. I was like, something's going to happen. And he's like, we know. And I'm like, you know what do we know? Like playing coy, and he was like, we know you're gay. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is happening now. This is it. It's out. Because like it's such a relief. Like that first moment when someone says they know, it's like is years of pressure. It just like lifts off your shoulders completely.
Okay.
So that was like amazing, and they took to it like pretty well. Like much better than I thought they would.
Okay. And then you got to celebrate with your friends because they were all there.
Yeah, because they were all there, and I was already drunk, so it was fine. Yeah, but then really soon afterwards, because then obviously I started living my like authentic life online, and I started doing drag at this point. So there was lots of photos online of me in drag and stuff, and people from my hometown had kind of like caught wind of this, and there was lots of like harassing, bullying messages. They were like sending photos around of me in drag.
Is this online? Like sending
online,
them?
yeah, but it was to the point of like, if you come home again to this town, like we're going to get you and stuff.
Are you serious? What year is it? For God's sake.
This is not that long ago. Like I think that it's.
Was it 1903 or something?
It only
like
stopped in like 2016. Like that's how how recent it was. Like I remember I went home for my sister's wedding in it was 2016, and I was out like walking my dog, and there was a Twitter profile set up where someone was following me around, like taking pictures of me walking my dog and being like, "We see you. We know you're here. Get back in the house."
That is disgusting. Did you ever find out who was doing that?
We knew who it was. I went to the police afterwards and kind of said what was happening. But that's the kind of thing people like. So we think like in a post-marriage referendum in Ireland that everything is completely fine, and especially living in Dublin, I can live in this little like LGBT bubble where all my friends are gay. I work in a gay space. Like everything around me is gay. And then you go out of that and you're like, oh my God, things haven't changed. There's pockets of the country where things have not changed at all, and there's still kids that are growing up living in that space who are still like feeling the exact same way as I was in the 90s, and like it should have moved on. You shouldn't be feeling the same way still.
Of course not, no. Yeah, it's easy for me to sit here and say any friends that have come out to me, I've been like, probably like duh, but also amazing.
Yeah.
But it's not always like that, of course.
No.
So yeah, that's really tough. I'm sorry that you went through that.
Oh no, it's fine. It's built.
Who are they? Get me their names. Jamie, I'm going to come to you. So what age were you when you came out as trans?
I was 22, I think. Yeah.
So last year, yeah.
Yeah, 2 years ago. 24. So.
And how did that go for you?
It was okay. Like, I think it was more internalized than anything. I kind of felt like there was so much going on with like Caitlyn Jenner came out around that time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. There was lots going on for the trans community. We got the Gender Recognition Act in Ireland that year. And I just felt like everything was being built up, but I just battled with myself so much. Like I did not want to come out at all.
Okay.
I was like doing drag like for such a long time, like hoping that like that was what it was. I was like, I don't want to have to go through this because I knew it was going to be hard. And yeah, I think most of the Dublin drags knew exactly what I was. So we used to call Brittany T. Carter, so they used to call me Brittany Trans Carter. And I was like, so they kind of.
And how did it feel? Just even hearing that word, did it feel right?
Not really, not at the time, because somebody else was pushing it on you, and I was like, no. I was like, no, I'm okay being male. But it wasn't until my sister actually started to switch it up that I was kind of looking at her, and she was becoming more and more feminine, and she was kind of androgynous, or whatever, like gender fluid. And I was like, oh my God, like she's just so brave doing that in a world where, if you're walking down the street, like people are going to say something to you.
Is your sister older than you or younger?
She's younger.
She's younger,
yeah,
okay. So Jamie's sister is also trans?
Yeah, my sister is also trans. But yeah, I just thought she was so brave, and I was like, God, I wish that I could like do that. Like I wish I could put myself out there that wasn't like this performance. Yeah. But like I wasn't even performing in drag anymore. I was just going out to the clubs in drag and running around as if I was like, living my best cis life, like, but yeah, so when I went down then for her graduation, she was done up so beautifully. Like she was in this like suit, but she had all the accessories. She had her nails done. She had her makeup on. Her hair was long. And I was just like, oh my God, like you look so good. And I was like, do you think you might be trans? Like, because I was really hoping that she would say something that would pull it out of me as well.
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't know. She was like, I have been thinking about it. And I was like, yeah, because drag really isn't for me anymore. It's not like it goes further than this, my gender expression or whatever. And she was like, well, I'm going to my graduation, so let's talk about this the next day.
You're like, I'm coming out here.
Yeah, so we had a conversation about it. We did come out to each other as transgender, and it was just so good to have someone, honestly.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was like, it was so cool. And then the next step then was to tell our mom, who is a lesbian woman. So I felt like, I don't know, I knew she was going to be a little bit like, oh really? But like, not that she wouldn't accept us, but that she was just fearful of the journey we're going to have to take, you know.
Sure.
But yeah, it all kind of worked out. So.
Okay, look at you now.
Look at me now. Yeah.
So you really inspire trans youth. So you've done lots of TV shows, and obviously you have your YouTube channel, and you know you've made it seem like it was easy, but I'm sure it wasn't always, right?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
There's lots of things that I wouldn't have like put online, or you know, like I definitely had a lot of like family stuff. Like my mom was great with it all. Like she was so supportive with everything. Like she drove us to get our gender recognition certs. She drove us to get our deed polls, change our names. Like she was always there. But then the kind of extended family, or you know, like my granny and stuff like that. Like she found it hard.
Of course.
So yeah, and especially because my granddad was actually really sick at the time, and then he passed away. Pretty much while me and Chloe were going through that big media storm. Of our story just going on all the newspapers and being on This Morning over in the UK and stuff like that. Like my granddad then passed away, and it was like the wrong time. But like there's never a right time to come out.
No.
Like it was either come out or pretty much get out, because I was so unhappy.
Yeah.
But she couldn't, my granny just found that so hard to cope with. She was like, because I remember we had a conversation about it after, and she was like, but to see it all over the news and see it on the papers, like, why did you have to put it out there? And I'm like, because there was no one out there. There was no one like myself and Chloe out there in Ireland at the time.
Yeah.
We were
and she finds it hard to accept because it's new to her, because nobody was doing what you were doing.
Yeah. Even though she said, like, she was like, we're used to hearing about men turning into women and all this. And I was like, okay, so why can't you accept us? And she's like, I do accept you. So I just couldn't accept that you put it so publicly. And I'm like, that's not accepted.
It's such an Irish thing as well.
Yeah,
It's just
it's
like, you
like,
know,
do it, but don't tell
keep
anyone.
it to yourself.
Yeah,
Yourself. No one needs to know.
But it's like then we're all just like, you know, we're all lost almost, you know? Like I felt so lost when I was coming out, because I was like, I'll never have the money like Caitlyn Jenner. I'll never have the looks like Gigi Gorgeous. I was like, how am I going to do this? Like, and there was nothing. So that's why myself and Chloe put ourselves out there, because we wanted to kind of almost show people that actually this is really possible, and you can go get your deed poll, you can go get your GRC, your gender recognition cert, and then, you know, if you opt to have surgeries or hormones, you can do this as well. And that's why I set up the YouTube channel, because I wanted to document all that, you know.
It's also a sense of community you get from being public as well, because if you're putting yourself out there for other people, you're allowing people to contact you, and like you thrive off each other's experience. It's like when you get that sense of community, the loneliness just kind of like dissipates from there.
That's so true.
So when, so for parents watching this, if they maybe suspect that their child is LGBTQ+, what is the right way to react, Paddy?
I don't think there's any right way. I mean, there's no like I don't have a book saying these are the rules.
Here's the instructions.
I think that it just be supportive, and let them express who they are, and like don't be so judgmental or jump to conclusions of what their life is going to be like, or you know what they're going to have to face, because you don't know. And all we want is a support system, and to feel loved, and to be able to be ourselves, and to be able to express that in the way we want to. So I think just a loving, supportive network is the best way.
Yeah. And is there anything not to say?
Yeah, I think the thing I think is most important, if this goes for a blanket, it doesn't matter if you think your kid is LGBT or not, is just be really conscious of what you're saying around your kid from a young age, because you don't know if your kid, like if from a 5 is going to grow up to be LGBT.
Yeah.
But like there's tiny things that you say that you might think nothing of, that is going to stay with that child forever. Like a throwaway comment that you might make. Especially I worry for kids at the moment who are coming of age now, who are like, you know, young kids during the marriage referendum, because there was so much hate being spewed around all the time. And so many kids will have sat in households where their parents were debating whether or not they were going to vote, and that's going to stay with that kid.
Yeah.
And that kid is now going to be of the age where they're going to come out and they're going to be like, oh, well, my parents were, you know, discussing that. My dad didn't want to vote for this, or my mum didn't want to vote, and that's going to influence how they're feeling now coming out. So just be careful from a young age of what you're saying around your child, and just make it seem like it is an open, honest relationship there. Like you talk to them about LGBT issues from a young age. Even if you don't think your kid is gay, they're going to grow up with tolerance then.
Yeah.
I also think don't say it's a phase.
Okay,
Never say you're too young to know. When you if your kid comes out to you, you're like, oh, you can't. Like if your kid's like 17, it's like, oh, I'm gay. Oh, you're too young to know.
Yeah.
No,
I've known for 10 years.
That kid has 10 years to sit there and think about it. They've been thinking that for years. So
well, look, I knew I fancied boys when I was in primary school.
You don't have to a straight person.
No, I didn't have to come out as straight. It was really handy.
How many times are you asking your toddler, oh, if you had a girlfriend in play school? But I'm like, you know, you talk about like, you know, pushing gay agenda on kids, but like we push straight agendas on kids all the time, so it's
Absolutely,
absolutely no
So
different.
true.
Even with the toys we choose for them, or the
Or
TV
like
shows.
blue and pink. Even
Yeah,
clothes,
totally,
blue
yeah.
and pink, do you know?
Yeah.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I
Going
think
back to
it's-
what Paddy was saying, it's not just like one way or the other. It's really, it's such a spectrum.
That's it.
And I think it's the same with gender, sexuality. They're all so fluid.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's so hard. Don't put people in boxes because then they feel almost trapped, or they could feel
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
trapped in their role.
We try, like on Her Family, we try to really use kind of gender inclusive language. You know, it's not always like mom and dad or any,
Yeah.
you know, because it could be any mixture of families, and also, you know, somebody might not be, like, they might not be man or woman or whatever it is. And I try and do that in my own language as well with my child, because I just feel like if you grew up and all you hear is that gender normative language or that, like, you know, straight centric kind of rhetoric or whatever, it's just, isn't it nice just to kind of just drop it into ordinary conversation? If you're watching TV, well, that man's married to that man, or, you know, that woman is trans, or
Exactly.
it can be quite natural.
Yeah.
And then
It is,
just
and it makes it more normal, because sometimes with discussions it's just a tick box, do you know?
Yes.
The change needs to be done in everyday life.
okay, great,
Yeah.
You
yeah.
know?
Yeah, that's it exactly. So you're not sitting down and explaining something.
Yeah.
It's just what they
Just make it
know.
normal, yeah.
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 Kids like homophobia is taught. It's not inherent. Like no one grows up or is born with like, you know, hatred or any kind of like
Yeah.
intolerance. So it's how you raise your kids. So I think
That's
you just need
it.
to start from a young age and raise them like a tolerant.
Yeah. I remember being in a friend's house for Christmas one year, and her daughter said to me, "Have you got a wife?" And I said, "I don't." And then her second question was, "Have you got a husband?" I don't have either. Okay, so whatever. That was my main problem. But I just liked that she was just like, "Which one have you got?"
Yeah.
Neither. Thanks for asking, but. Because that's just the way their household is, and I love that. You know, there's no presumptions made. Because, like I say, you don't have to come out as straight. You know, but it nearly is. It's the default, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas it shouldn't be. So
No.
Well, you'd even get like people would say, "Oh, I have a gay friend, Paddy."
really,
You know, like that still happens
Yeah.
sometimes. Do you know?
okay.
Like that kind of language, and they don't mean bad by it. I know they don't mean malice, but like that's in people's head. It's still a thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Like you still have to kind of
Yeah.
introduce it somehow beforehand. Yeah. Yeah.
Where I wouldn't be like,
just
that's
looking for them.
I'm like, you want to know? But I wouldn't be like, that's my straight friend Laura.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Maybe you should start doing that. Just label everybody, so then the labels will get old and we'll all stop using them. And Jamie, for you, so then afterwards, obviously, like coming out is a big process in general, but there's lots more to think about when you're trans because of all of the things that you spoke about, like whether you're going to go hormone, whether you're going to go down the operative route, all of those things. So for a parent, finding out your child is trans is probably, you know, it's probably a bit of a concern because you think, okay, we're starting a big journey here.
Yeah.
What, as a trans parent, can you do to support your child through it? Like, are there, you know, organisations that you can go to for help? Or
Definitely, yeah. There's TENI, which is the Transgender Equality Network Ireland.
Okay.
They're so good to help. Like, honestly, just send them a message or reach out. Also, like, if you don't want to talk to someone, like Google has all the answers.
Yeah.
You know it does. And all you need to do is just do your research. Like, and a lot of people actually don't choose to medically or, you know, surgically transition.
Yeah.
So it's just about being supportive, being there for them, listening to their needs, like what they may want. Again, don't put them in boxes. Like, just because your child has come out as trans does not mean that, you know, they could come out as like trans non-binary or they could come out as gender fluid. So it's not like, okay, they're trans, they're going on hormones, they're going to get surgery and, you know, but definitely just listen to them, just be there and support them and love them no matter what. It's
Yeah.
kinda like-
Yeah, I think a good point from that when you're talking about Google as well is like it's a good idea for parents to research themselves before. If you think your child might be like, you know, questioning their sexuality or gender identity, don't put it up to it's not the child's responsibility to teach you. You have to go and do the research yourself. So
100%.
That's a
go.
really
Yeah,
good
I
point.
agree.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
resources are there. Go and educate yourself first
Yeah.
before you come to the child. So then at least you have the language to speak to them
Yeah.
on their
Yeah.
own terms before they have to do it for you.
But that's with anyone, like if your friend
Yeah.
comes out or, you know,
Yeah.
if you just
Yeah.
know someone who comes out and you don't know maybe necessarily the language or whatever, just Google it, like just research
Yeah.
it, you know. if it's
Education is
new.
key.
It is, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's for anybody.
Yeah.
Whether
So
you're
true.
a parent, a friend,
Yeah.
an ally, you know.
So what is the best way to be an ally for your kids? So it's to kind of study up and
Educate.
educate yourself on it.
Educate
Okay.
yourself, yeah. It's not
Yeah.
always on the person to educate other people around them. You
Okay.
need to do some
And
work
ask
yourself.
questions. If you don't understand, ask questions.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna like jump down your neck if you have a question for me which is not done in a bad way.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys one more thing? So if there's anyone watching this who is maybe planning to come out or is a bit worried about it, if it doesn't go well and family aren't accepting of it, you know, what's your advice there?
That's tough.
Yeah.
It's
I would
tough.
say if you are in a situation where you think it might not go the best, I would say make sure you have a support network around you before you do it,
Okay.
because you don't
Yeah.
want to be in a situation where you're isolated afterwards.
No.
So even if it's like telling a friend, or if you have a family member who's maybe not your parents, that you know you can rely on or go to, maybe go to them first.
Okay.
Just to make sure you have a network around you.
Yeah, I'd also add on to that, maybe bring them with you
Yeah.
when you're coming out to them.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll be able to ease that tension. you
Okay.
know.
So bring your
Bring the
friend,
person
your ally
that
with
yeah,
you.
I'd bring them with me.
Okay.
I can't speak from personal experience because I never thought they were gonna, like, I wasn't going to be like shunned away from the family, but I knew it was going to be tough. So
Yeah.
I have had a tough experience, but it's different being having a tough experience and then actually being like shut the door on.
Yeah.
That's different.
I mean,
So-
hopefully those days are mostly gone, but I mean, you'd have to presume
Yeah.
that. it
Well, you
doesn't
never
go
know, but
I
Yeah.
don't think so. I think
Yeah.
for some people it's
No.
not gone at
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
you know? It's
I will
a-
say, so yeah, sometimes as well, like I wouldn't mind, it's better not to do it in person sometime as well if you think that it is going to go a different way. Like we live in a world of social media now, send a message. You
Yeah,
don't have to do it
I think
in
that's
person.
really good advice.
Yeah, and give them time to like think about it before they come to you, because you don't want to see that. As I said,
Yeah.
that immediate reaction can be really scarring for the rest of your life, so
Yeah,
you don't
of
want to go
course,
through
yeah.
that. So just send them a message or send them a letter, even if you want to go old school.
I have a friend, he'll kill me now for saying this, but he went to Australia for a year. So as soon as he got there, he came out to everyone else.
Yeah, it's so much easier when you've got the
Yeah.
space between you. It's so
Yeah.
I'm
much
sure,
easier.
yeah.
And I would say that time is a big healer, do you know?
Okay.
So once it's done, if you do it in the right way, like over a method
Yeah.
and all, that time can help the process.
So maybe do it and then step away
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
little while if
Yeah.
you can.
Because you're also coming to terms with yourself as well, so you don't
Yeah.
need
Okay.
other voices in your head,
Yeah.
negative voice in your head, and then they can have time to think about it as well. And
Yeah. Mhm.
hopefully you come to a happy medium, you know,
Yeah.
and you're able to kind of see.
Yeah.
That's-
So say with your dad, you knew it wasn't the best news in his
Yeah.
eye.
Yeah.
So did you broach it again with them, or did you just leave it with them?
I left it with him. I didn't speak about it again. And I'd say I'm going into town, and he would know that I'm going to George, but I
Okay.
wouldn't say to George.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I also have my friend Rob Kenny, who I came out with as well. So we had each other kind
Yeah.
of as a support network. So we just didn't speak about it, you know. But I knew that he knew, and he knew that I knew. So,
Okay.
and then it just kind of suddenly one day he turned around, and it was just like he made a kind of normal conversation, and that took about a year.
Okay.
know?
Yeah.
And I think that like that's okay.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's okay. It doesn't have to be.
immediate acceptance.
yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
you might need to process
As
it.
a gay person or any queer person, you've had your entire life to come to terms with that, and you
Yeah.
can't expect your parent to do that in like
Yeah.
a snap of a finger. Their whole expectance of what your life is going to be has changed in that moment, and just give them time to come to terms with
Yeah.
it as well.
Okay.
And also what they've been taught. What they've been taught as a
Yeah.
kid. You know, their pillars of how they've come up
Yeah.
It's
are
embedded
very
in them.
different.
Yeah.
You know, so just sometimes give them time, and time can help.
Yeah.
And it did for me,
Yeah.
and I'm so delighted that I got that time with him, and we kind of came to a comfortable place with each other.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
you know, for him to vote gay marriage again is just amazing for me. You know, it got me
That's a
really
real
upset
win.
because apparently because like where he was from, and he really just didn't believe that gay people could have a life, or kind of, you know, he was like, that couldn't be on my doorstep, kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Irish
Yeah.
dad vibes.
Yeah, that's the thing. I know when I came out, my mum's big fear was like, oh, you're going to live such a hard, lonely life.
Oh,
Because
wow,
that's what
okay.
they've been taught growing up,
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
you're going to be on your own for the rest of your life because you're like, you're
Yeah, so
queer or
it's coming from
whatever.
a place
So,
of
yeah.
love, but it's just
Yeah.
a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important as well to note that, like, if your family or, you know, whatever aren't accepting and you don't really have that support network, just know that, like, family is a word, and
Yeah.
mother, father, brother, sister are titles given to people, but your family really can be the family that you choose. Your friends can be your
Yeah.
family. The
Yeah.
people that
It's
actually
like
love you
your-
unconditionally
yeah,
can be your
biological
family.
and your logical family.
That's, yeah, so
Yeah.
true. But it's like, you know, okay, maybe people don't have the best relationships with their parents because of their sexuality or their gender. Just surround yourself with people who love you. I think
Yeah.
that's so important.
That's
Honestly,
really good
that's
advice, Jenny.
amazing. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting mouthed at my
I know, me too. I
Surround
think
myself
that's
with
fab
people.
though for anyone if it didn't go well with your family,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, find the networks,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Because
and
they're there.
And they're out
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay.
I remember the first time I went to Gay Pride, I couldn't believe it. So I was
Yeah.
like, I'm
Yeah,
home!
yeah.
Yeah. Oh
And
my
it's so
God.
scary.
Yeah.
The first thought of gay pride is so scary. Well, it was for me. Then you get there and you're
Yeah.
like,
people like that. Yeah. Oh, it's so amazing.
That's magic. Guys, let's leave it on that lovely positive note. And I just want to thank you all so much for sharing your stories. I think it's going to be a real big help to anyone who's watching who is planning to come out, and also for parents watching. You know, you might not get it right the first time, but it's just about, it's I suppose, accepting that it's a process and going through it with your child and knowing that you're there for them. So
unconditional love.
Yeah,
that's it. Exactly, no conditions.
Yeah.
So that's all we have time for this week. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you soon. Until then, stay safe.